All right, welcome back, White Oak Collective Podcast. I do not know for sure, but I think it's episode 25.
That sounds right to me. I was going to say 24 or 25 is what I was thinking, but I felt like I've said 24 a couple times.
No, I think we're on 25, and we are about to be officially in our turkey hunting stretch here for, what do you think, probably 4 or 5 in a row will be turkey hunting?
The next several in a row I'll be turkey hunting, and we're going to kick turkey season off right with a name that's real familiar and was a kind of big surprise to know he was coming in the office today.
Yeah, so it'd be I have to admit this is probably the most nervous I've been with a guest so far. So this is how I'll start the introduction, and if you can't guess, then we'll tell you at the end. So just what I've got here, I took off your website. We've got World Turkey Calling Contest Champion, World Natural Voice Turkey Calling Contest Champion, World Two-Man Team Turkey Calling Contest Champion, World Goblin Turkey Calling Contest Champion, World All Call Turkey Calling Contest Champion, only person to hold 5 different world titles, 7 national championships, 9 national champ of champs, U.S. Goblin Champion, Grand National Goblin Champion, and Grand National Champ of Champs. So if you couldn't put it together during all of that, we've got Mr. Preston Pittman here with us today. Mr. Preston, how you doing?
Big, fat, bald, old, ugly, but I can still kill a turkey.
I heard that, and we are getting close, So Austin, you kind of the connections back a long time ago, or how we put this together. So I'll let you kind of get going into that and how this came to be, and y'all's connection and all that.
Okay, yeah, we and that's really kind of part of what we're wanting to talk about today with Preston is kind of even learning a little bit more of that from my side. But I know we've talked on here a few times about my grandfather and his background of being in turkey calling contest and doing the natural voice calling, and Preston and Granddaddy got together at some point early in his career. And for me, like I was laughing I don't know if you can see this on the video or not, but my first, like, I guess really getting to know Preston was he came hunting with us, shared camp with us, kind of as Granddaddy was going down in health, and gave me this box call. It's still the only box call I took my vest now. And so that was kind of my first time to get to know Preston, other than I always tell this story when somebody asks, is that anytime we'd be at an outdoor show or convention or something, and Preston would see Dad, he'd jump out of some corner booth somewhere and kiss him on the cheek.
Let me tell you something. Your granddaddy was my hero. That's the man who started all this with me. And look how far it has gone. And I have a saying that goes like this: pass it on. I'll tell you a story a little bit later on about your granddaddy up in Yellville, Arkansas, that I think you'll get a kick out of. But that's the one thing that he bestowed upon me and in me, from the competitive side, is that there's a kid, especially, that needs some help, then help him. Pass it on. So that's my saying.
But as far as me doing, I guess that part of the introduction, I mean, yeah, that's kind of, Preston Pittman was always a big name in our house growing up, because that was
well, if you turkey hunted and you were our age, Preston Pittman was a big name in your house, period.
Right.
In anybody's.
But that was kind of that was who we followed, because at that point in time, Granddaddy's calling career was over. He had retired from everything by that point. So watching Preston on David Letterman and on stage and everything else, which actually was a question Dad wanted me to ask you, was of the different things you've been on, what was your favorite? What was the biggest thing, I guess, to you that turkey hunting took you into, as far as?
Well, the biggest thing that actually stood, I mean, I've done Letterman, I've done Leno, Regis and Kelly, Funniest People, all that junk. Okay. Right. But probably the most impressed that I've ever been was when I did Jay Leno. He was not the kind of guy that secretaries came and took care of you. He walked you back to the green room. When we got ready to leave, I didn't get the little sign that was on top of the room, that had Preston Pittman on it and who else was there. And he went and got it and brought it back to me. He's a real person, if you know what I mean. And I had on a camouflage shirt, and one of the directors that was, I don't know what you would call it, whatever, over the show comes out there and says, "Oh, no, 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 no! You've got to take that shirt off. That's hunting, because we couldn't say hunt, kill, shoot. You know, it was,
Right.
quote, comedy." And Jay heard it and said, "There's nothing wrong with that shirt." Says, "Look at that one over there." And let's just say he was not a Mississippi man. If you can read
Yeah.
in between the lines, he had a Flowery shirt on.
Yeah.
And, well, Mr. Leno, he can't. Wait a second. Whose show is this? Yes, sir. He said, "This is my show." And I say that he can wear it. So that probably impressed more upon me as far as the different, shows that I've been on, that he was a real person, He came out before the show actually aired, had a dirty T-shirt on, had a pair of blue jeans on because he'd ridden his motorcycle, to the show. And he walks out on the stage. Y'all think it's live, but it's not. Okay?
Right.
I can tell you that. And he'd come out on the stage and he'd shoot the bull with the people. "Hey, how many motorcycles you got? Blah, 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 blah. Are you married? Well, what's your girl?" Yeah, just normal questions that anybody would like to know about, a big celebrity like that. And he'd talk to the audience for 20, 30 minutes. He'd go, "All right, now," he says, "whether you like him or not, you got to laugh at my jokes." He walks out and goes, and gets dressed. So he probably made the most impression on me. And I enjoyed it. I really did.
Good. Well, that was like, a lot of your age group probably wasn't even, where everybody's getting older now. So it's like a lot of your age group is listening to this they may not have been hunting yet when they saw that or something. So that was what he wanted to know. He said, of all your different show experiences, which one was stood out the most?
Well, that one definitely, Mr. Leno stands out more than any of them.
So let's jump back and kind of just get going in a groove here. When you grew up, turkey hunting it didn't have near the popularity that it's got now.
Oh no.
How did you get into it like you are, and how did you get started with that?
Let me just tell you a story. How about that?
Yep.
The Mississippi State Championship, and this was before NWTF or any big quote organizations. Carthage, Mississippi had the Mississippi State Championship turkey calling contest on the 4th of July. I think you could get a half of a barbecue chicken, coleslaw, beans, bread, and sweet tea for $3 to $5. They had a hunting horn blowing contest, a skeet shooting contest, a duck calling, just all kinds, grease pole contest, rabbit roundup, just good old time country days. And there were families went to. And that's one thing my mother and father were not turkey hunters, but they were giant outdoorsmen as far as fishing and deer hunting. I was born and raised in Harrisburg, South Mississippi, so it was dog hunting.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know it was blasted stale hunters. They're out there trying to kill a deer in front of our dogs. It was just starting, any stale hunting. But we went places together. And I'm going to take a moment here and encourage every mother and father that have a child out there, spend time with them. If it's nothing more than a cane pole and a bucket of crickets, I mean, I had a wonderful life coming up. We didn't have a whole bunch of money, but we had love, and we all shared, the outdoors. So my dad come to me and says, "Look," started talking about what all was going on in Carthage. And I said, "Shoot, yeah, I want to go." And he said, "They even got a fishing rodeo." And I think the cutoff for the fishing rodeo, I believe back then it was 10 years old. So it was just for kids. Well, I didn't know that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or another, I got hold of a fishing pole and went in the little old pond, and I caught the biggest brim and won the plaque, back then. And the guy asked me, he says, "Well, how old are you, son?" I said, "I'm 12. He said, "Oh, well, the limit's 10 years old," whatever the age was, but it was in that age bracket. And I said, "Well, if I'm too old," and I gave the plaque back. And that's the day I met Mr. Jack Dudley, my hero. He's warming up just a little bit, not like the contest in my day and era and now today, but he's warming up a little bit. And I come up behind him and and he's looked at me. He said, "Son, that's pretty good." He said, "You won that fishing rodeo, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, sir, but I'm too old." If you keep yelping like that, and he says, "I want to work with you a little bit." And I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." Immediately, right then, he become, my hero. Now, I had killed a couple of turkeys even by the age of 12. We won't say how or when. We will say, I apologize, and I hope the statute of limitations is now gone. And that's all I'm going to say. And people obey the laws. They're out there for a reason. They really are. And our population is down right now, so do the right thing. But anyway, he steps up on the stage, wins the state championship. Well, then I became a tick. I attached myself to Mr. Dudley. Surprised he didn't backhand me. And he stopped. He'd yell. I'd try something. He'd say, "Yes, do this, do that. You're good. You're a natural." He said, "Don't worry about it. One day you're going to come back and you keep on going like what you're going." And he said, "You'll win this thing." Yeah, sure. And then Jack was about the only person back then. This is prior or before another name I'm going to mention here, and that's Mr. Ben Rogers Lee. And he was about the only person that was, quote, doing a show or a seminar, and he had this 45 RPM record. Well, I bought one real quick. In fact, at one point in time, you know what? I didn't turn my phone off. I feel it vibrating. So while I'm talking, I'm gonna reach in here and put this thing on silent, or it'll start gobbling. Y'all hang on just a moment. Okay, what was I saying, dadgummit?
45
You were talking about
RPM.
Ben Rogers Lee.
Okay. And he would go to different, like, we remember the Gunner Real Sportsman's Club, and every now and again he would do a little personal appearance. Well, here again, bless my mom and my dad, anytime he was anywhere within driving range, driving distance, they'd carry me. And then I finally talked him into about once a month, he'd let me call Jack. Because you remember, it was the old rotary
Right.
phones, and it was long distance, and I had 5 minutes, and I'd do a little yelping for him and stuff. And then right as I was turning 16, he called me. And he said, "Preston," he said, "I'm retired from the state and open state championship, because if you won it 3 years consecutively, you had to retire." And couldn't nobody beat him. And he said, "You need to compete in this contest." So here comes this little 16-year-old fart back to Carthage, Mississippi. And we were going every year. And I'm picking his brain every time, and I'm calling him, once a month, and I'm following him whenever he goes and does, a personal appearance. And I'm trying to remember the name of the mayor in Jackson. I can't remember the gentleman's name now, but he was a big turkey hunter, big turkey caller. He was competing in it. And here's all these, like I am right now, all these old farts up on the stage. And here's just one little 16-year-old kid. And I won it. And from there went on to my career, which I do not compete. I am not going to compete ever again, except with the bird himself out there in the woods. And Jack laid my foundation for me, cared about me. And there is one story I hope I have time to tell here that kind of goes back to the pass it on, or do you want me to tell it now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yellville, Arkansas. Here again, this is prior. That's where the NWTF was actually founded and formed at, and people don't know that. That's another whole story. Yeah, this summer you're going to come visit with me. I got some stories I'm going to tell you, okay? Right. I just bring plenty of tape. Well, they don't use tape anymore. But I'm up in Yellville, Arkansas, one little motel. They close the downtown part. They have dances on the street. Used to throw live turkeys out of the airplane. I mean, it was just a big, giant, I think they call it turkey trot, festival. Awful lot of fun. And that was one of the first years, I think, I can't remember exactly, but we're going to say it was the first year that I won the national championship. And Jack was there, and I believe your dad was there too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if my mom happens to see this, I have a picture I was trying to find to bring and show you. Somewhere at our house, we have a Polaroid.
You're kidding me.
You're standing on, it's you and Dad and Granddad are all on stage. He's holding the King of Kings. You're holding the Grand National, and Dad was holding, or whatever. Was it Grand? Was it Grand?
National.
National.
Yeah, it was the original national championship.
Granddaddy had the King of Kings. You had the National, and Dad had the third place in the men's division.
Gotcha.
And there's all three of y'all standing there.
Oh, man. You find it? I want a copy. But I beat Jack that year. The only time I ever beat him. And we all stayed at that one little motel, you know, and moved up on the hill. And if I break up, I'm sorry. I can't help it. It touches my heart every time I tell this story. I went up and I said, Mr. Dudley, I said, I didn't win that contest. And that's about all I got out. And he said, son, let me tell you something right now. He said, I ain't never heard of a better turkey caller besides myself in the world. He said, you won that fair and square. You beat me fair and square. And he put his arm around me. I can't help it. He said, the greatest thing to a teacher is when the pupil becomes better than the teacher. Son, always pass it on. And I never forgot that, never will. He was my hero. End of story. So,
well, that's what I was. Whenever we were talking, kind of leading into this, and I'm sure we'll be able to get together and have some good conversations on that. But like, you know, from that side of it, that's stories we didn't hear that much about as a kid. We heard more of the hunting side of the stories,
right.
Not so much of the contest stories and all. And so just being able to spend some time and talk about, like, you know, what were those states like, you know, how did that work, or like those early days at Yellville and that kind of stuff. Like, all that stuff's fascinating to me because I guess growing up we were sitting around telling the hunting stories,
right,
not necessarily the
the
calling stories.
There is so much history that actually started from your dad or your grandfather. I can remember coming over. I told you this briefly outside and meeting with Jack because Jack knew Mr. Raymond Chisholm. Have you ever seen the Chisholm call, the old original trough call?
I think so. Like
a bay round. Okay. If you remember, Ben came out with a trough call. Your grandfather introduced Ben Rogers Lee, because I was there, to Mr. Chisholm on his front porch to get permission to build his trough call. Now, whether he technically had legal permission or not, I don't know. And it didn't look like Raymond's, and it didn't sound like, you know, Mr. Chisholm's call. But that's the real truth behind that trough call. In fact, I have 2 or 3 of the old Chisholm calls in my collection. Son, you just don't know the stories that I could tell. So Mr. Jack is, especially in the South, I look at it like this. He handed it down to me. I've handed it down. I've helped world, national, grand national champion callers. So it's like a building process that, as far as I'm concerned, your grandfather was that first seed that was planted.
Like a coaching tree, as people would say in football or something.
That's right. And look at what it has turned into this day and time. You know, the Mees, the Will Primoses, the Ben Rogers Lees, Louis Stowe's, and on and on and on and on and on. Dick Kirby, all of them. You know, the true turkey hunters should be cussing us all out because we publicized it and turned it
Right.
into, a business. First calls that were made, diaphragms. Good God. I used old plumber's sheet lead and Dixie Deluxe condoms, 2 for $1 on Broadway Drive at the Bill Ups service station to build my calls out of. And then people went to using tin cans, for the diaphragms to what it has come to today with sophisticated stretching machines that you can get within, a 10,000th of an inch, exact
Right.
stretch on every single solitary call. Instead of pulling those condoms over a pine board with a piece of plexiglass that I got from Dixie Glass Company out of their garbage bin back there in the back and roughed it up and glued it to a pine board and used thumbtacks,
Yeah.
to hold it. So I've got to see and live to see this industry come from an embryo to what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to put a turkey hunting tip in here. Always remember this, especially in the deep South. Less is more. Less is more simply because, and basics. And that was your granddaddy. He was, of course, I did not get to hunt with him.
I was wondering that
that's
if,
my
if y'all
fault.
ever did or not.
The only time I ever come in to camp with him, and I was scared. I knew he'd show me up. But it was good because how'd I learn? I didn't have the YouTube. I didn't have the podcast. We didn't have all that. You get out there and let them make a fool out of you is what you did.
Yep.
And you learn from it. People are so far ahead now in what they can do, but they forget about going back to those basics. They've been screamed at, especially here again, especially in the deep South. They've been screamed at, hollered at, cut to, cackled to, blown box, everything you can possibly think. And for that turkey hunter, the beginning turkey hunter that says, well, why does all that matter? You can and you will educate turkeys if you talk to them too much and don't say the right conversation to him at the right time. One of my pet peeves is real simple. You never, ever, ever, ever call to a turkey until the day you're ready to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Period. And if you've got any kind of a doubt in your mind of should I call to him again, don't. Should I move, sit still for another 45 minutes to an hour? It's just old time patience. We have, and I'm going to put 3 states in this category: Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. If you can go to those states and kill turkeys, or one of those states and kill turkeys, you can go anywhere in the United States. We have absolutely at least times 37 states that I've been in. Okay. We have the hardest turkeys that there are. They've been hunted longer. They've been hunted harder. They've been hunted by great woodsmen and some fantastic outlaws too.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, but yeah, you're right about like him talking about Granddaddy and the way he hunted. I mean, he probably made as much of a name for himself, at least around the area, for killing turkeys as he did for calling turkeys. And it was because he was patient.
Yes.
And he believed, like, if you get a turkey to answer you,
he knows where you're at.
He knows where you're at and he's coming. Like,
well,
it may be a couple hours. He's got something he's going to do, but he knows where you are.
Right.
He heard where you called from. And he's going to, after a while, he's going to do his thing and he's going to get ready to come back and check and see if you're still in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he killed a lot of turkeys.
Mm-hmm. Just plain old patience. The longest I ever sit on a bird was off. I'm going to even tell exactly where it was at. Go to New Augusta, Mississippi, take a right, go towards the coast on Highway 29. Right before you get to Perrette Fire Tower, there used to be an old gravel pit and a big bay swamp behind it. I think just about everybody in that whole part of the country was turkey hunter. You mess with that bird. And actually, I got to hunt one year with another gentleman, Bud Myers, who was from down in the Brooklyn area, and he's a lot like your granddaddy. He had the patience of Job. And he always says, look, he said, turkey ever answers you? Son, he's waited the whole year to have a girlfriend. And he wants as many girlfriends in as short a period of time as he can possibly have. He said, he didn't say sit, he said, just sit your ass down, excuse my French, and wait him out and learn to see with your ears. I now truly understand what he meant by that. On the fourth year that me and everybody else messed with this bird, I was in there because he rested in the same place. You couldn't get to him. I mean, I think he knew there was 5,999 water moccasins in that big old bay swamp, and there wouldn't nobody go try to get in there to him. And he always flew out and went the other way. I don't care how you approached him, what you did to him, what kind of call you did to him, just to fly down with a wing. It didn't matter. He was going to go the other way. Sit down on him 45 minutes before daylight, and at 4:15 that afternoon, still sitting in the same place. I killed him. And a cat squirrel told me he was coming because I heard the cat squirrel jump up on the side of the tree and bark. And the next thing I heard was, and use that gun up. And yes, I could roll over and go to the bathroom. And yes, I had a glass quart jar of water and 2 bologna sandwiches. And sure enough, he came back. And all I did to him that morning, I did one little tree call, cut me off like always. I took a real turkey wing, hit the ground, scratched a little bit, purred once. That's all I did. And you know what he did? He flew the other way. And then when I heard the cat squirrel bark, I just, one little time, one little short purr, and scratch with the rhythm that a hen scratches, which is scratch, 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 sometimes a drag. I did that about 3 times, put my gun on my knee, then I heard the drumming. By the way, he had a little over 2-inch spurs. He weighed 13 pounds.
Old joker.
He's one of the sure enough old original. I think and if you look at the map back years ago, southern Mississippi was actually part of the range of the original Osceolas too. They even went on into Louisiana. And we called them old moss heads is what we called them.
So I couldn't think of what it was, but I knew there was another name.
Oh, they had the old army cap where how the heck is he even seeing out from underneath that wrinkle on his eye? And like I said, he weighed 13 pounds. I would say I sit all day long on him.
Mm-hmm.
And with the back problems, I had to move a little bit, but I can still do it right now today, and will do it.
And that's the toughest thing. It's just being patient on them is the toughest thing. I know that's what I need to do, but it's still just.
Well, off air, I'll teach you how to do that, but not on air. Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad yours turned out like that. We killed one time. It's similar situation to off in a swamp, like the exact similar type situation as you're describing there. He weighed 13 pounds and had slick legs. We killed him. We went running up there. I was like, this thing ain't no telling what the spurt.
Right.
He started gobbling in February every year, and he stayed in the same spot. Hear him. He was going to gobble nonstop all morning, every morning. You couldn't get to him in the swamp he was in.
Right.
So you knew it was the same one. He was in there gobbling. He started early, gobbled all year. You couldn't kill him. Couldn't get to him. And we caught him with some jakes behind us one time. When Jakes got to gobbling behind us, and we were halfway between them, and that drew him out of there.
Right.
I killed him, and we went running up there. I just couldn't wait to see what his spurs going to look like, because we've been listening to him for 4 years that we knew of, and he didn't. It looked like hen legs.
I've killed a few of those.
He didn't even have a little pebble on.
Right.
There. It was nothing.
Those are the ones you remember, though.
They are, yeah. That's probably my favorite one I've ever killed. Weighed 13 pounds.
So going back for a minute, just where I'm on the same page, those early calling contests with Mr. Jack and this, was that natural voice, or was that with some of the calls you were making? Everything, I guess.
I won the first state championship with nothing but my natural voice. I had a heck of a coach. And then about that time, my voice changed. So I basically completely lost it. I could still piddle a little bit with it, and I'm back at that stage again now. I've worn it out, and that's when I started playing with building diaphragms out of plumber's sheet lead, uh, and rubber and duct tape and X-Acto knives and just whatever the heck I could get my hands on, if you know what I mean. And that was kind of the beginning. There was Gibson stores. Y'all probably aren't old enough to know about those. There was actually a guy in Alabama that was making some calls. And about that time, here comes Ben Lee, onto the scene. And my dad was a pipe fitter plumber. And he said, son, you take some of that lead out there. You go get you some condoms. And then I switched over to surgical gloves. My mother was a hairstylist, so I could go in her beauty shop and steal the surgical rubber. And y'all remember a name by the name of Gene Nunnery?
Yes, sir.
The original champion choice, which was made out of dental dam, which Mike's out at 6,000, was accidentally invented in his house at a contest, right after a contest, because he was making them by using popper rivets and aluminum frames. I'm still in the lead frame stage. And I accidentally, as I was trying to cut some, because I cut the tape off with a pair of scissors, duct tape, and I accidentally nicked a piece of the rubber, and I started just go ahead and throw it away, and I put it in my mouth, and it buzzed. Wonder what would happen if I nicked the other side. Oh my God, I got rasp. That sounds like an older hen. Not the rasp we get out of calls now. Today, I call it a buzz. So that was the birthplace of the old original, champion choice, which very few people use anymore.
And for people if you didn't catch that name about being Gene Nunnery, that's Meridian native here, and that's the old that's the old pro turkey hunter.
That's right.
That's so famous right now, or I guess it always has been, but it seems like it's had a real big popularity.
Well, all that stuff, it seems like it's making a
comeback,
making his rounds again. Yeah,
they just had a big reprint of it a few years back, and but that's the Gene Nunnery he's talking about.
Right. What was your original question? Because I know I started getting off.
No, because I was asking about if the first contest and stuff, if that was natural voice or if that was the cause.
So is that just like a open division you could call with whatever you wanted to call with at that time?
The only contest that I am aware of that was straight natural voice was in Natchez, Mississippi. And they had an open calling contest. Open calling contest, you can use anything you want to. Doesn't matter. But they had the world natural voice calling contest and the Miss Lou open calling contest. But back in those days, they were basically, it was a turkey calling contest. If you wanted to use toilet paper, you can use toilet paper. I mean, it didn't matter.
Turkey calls were in its infancy, really, at that time.
Yes, it was. Yes, they were. And I mean, I remember when Louis Stowe first came out with a plastic pot slate call. And then he adapted it, and he's dead and gone now, with 2 holes in it. So you could change the pitch by taking your thumb and putting over 1 or 2 of the holes to get just innovative, if you know what I mean, in those days and times. And then we found out about a flower pot made by Max Klein. How am I remembering all this stuff? Can't even remember my next door neighbor's name, but I'm remembering some stuff. And basically, it was the water where you put the flower
basin at the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom. And that was like, oh my gosh, listen to that. Oh, and it's got a rim in the bottom. Wonder what would happen. And I didn't do it first. I will not take credit for that. I wonder if we glued something else in there, which became, basically what we call now the soundboard. So it had 2 pieces of slate, 2 pieces of glass, or glass over slate, so on, so forth. And everybody was using that Max Klein pot.
So is that why it was called a pot call? Was because it was originally made from a pot?
That sounds good to me.
I've never heard him. I've never heard anybody say it like that, and that's why I was wondering.
But I'm telling you where it came from.
If that's what it really
Yeah.
came from,
That's what it really came from. Because then I've got 1,000, 2,000 flower pot holders with no cup on the bottom of them. What are you going to do with those things? I even tried to sell them at a garage sale for a nickel a piece and couldn't sell them all. Golly. Old times. I had another one. Trying to remember the name. Super Strut, I believe is what I called it. It started from a Mrs. Stratton pimento and cheese. The handle was a Sharon Williams paint handle that you rolled with, a roller paint handle. I used 3/8-inch glass. I'd line up 10 or 15 pots on the drill press, drill the middle out and get about half of them that wouldn't be cockeyed off to the side. Took a hand paper punch because I kept a bruise right there in the palm of that right hand and punched 3 little holes in the side. Now, it was I will take credit for this. It was the original Cluck and Purr pot. I wish I could get those things back again, if you know what I mean. But you could not call loud on it. And you wasn't going to get no whole bunch of rasp out of it. Oh, yeah, and they had a 3/8-inch piece of plexiglass that I had to drill the paint handles out to get it into it. That call won a lot of contests and has killed a bunch of turkeys in the old day whenever all of us started learning that, you can't. I went through the cut and run days. I went through, I'm going to cut it every turkey that there is. But that was also during the heyday in the state of Mississippi and other states that the population went ballistic. But after that, and they started getting the more turkey hunters and stuff, you started learning a little cluck and purr and soft yipping. That's how you're going to kill that long spurred bird. I ain't worried about the 2-year-old, which I won't turn the 2-year-old down now. I ain't going to lie about that. He's a long beard.
I was about to say,
no, sir. No, sir. He acts like a man. I'm going to treat him like one. I ain't going to shoot no Jake, even though it is illegal in the state of Mississippi, but even in other states. But Longbeard comes up, shoot him. I don't shoot a lot of turkeys myself anymore. I do like the Tennessee governor's hunt. I used to do the Kansas one-shot hunt. I donated myself to the Wildlife Foundation. They helped them raise some money. I donated myself to the hunting club I'm in up at Aceland Sportsman's Club. All kinds of stuff. TFT, I had donated myself to them. I was supposed to carry the young man from New Jersey last year. My brother passed away, so I'm redoing that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this: at 70, I can't go like I used to. Come next year, I'm knocking a lot of that stuff out, and I'm just going to go have fun again.
Oh yeah,
and it not be a business. And then I have a second love that is on a 1 to 10 is a 9.5 out of 10. Turkey still holds number 10, and that's where I was at this weekend. I was on the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast fishing. I love inshore fishing.
Yep.
Speckled trout, redfish, flounder.
Just kind of getting into that a little bit.
I love it. I don't care hardly at all to bass fish or any of the stuff around here. I mean, I'll crappie fish and catfish, but something about down there because you don't know what you're going to catch.
You never know.
There's no telling what's going to be at the end of that line when you pull it up.
You never know. Yeah. Like I'm trying to eat a donut and about to have my rod up underneath my arm, and if I hadn't had it underneath my arm, it'd be gone. About a 12, 15 pound redfish hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the donut thing went flying and the Coca-Cola went flying and everything else, but I caught the fish and I had to go around the boat 3 times. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. We've just gotten into it in the past couple of years. I've got a friend that's got a boat down there, and we don't know what we're doing, but figuring that stuff's out. It's about kind of, similar to hunting. You're just
there you go,
trying different things till
right.
you get something right.
So going back to like kind of some of your origin stories on stuff there. And talking about Carthage, you made me think about it because I was thinking that was where this man was from. Were you familiar with that turkey vest that
Mr. Albert E. McMillan,
Macmillan? That's right.
which
Wasn't he
was
from Carthage?
that was your granddaddy's running buddy.
I know. They had that turkey vest that was kind of before really turkey vest came out, wasn't it?
As far as I know, and what Mr. McMillan told me eons ago is that, he is the first person to invent a fold down turkey vest and had it patented, which the patent be way gone, by now.
Right.
Because I went, well, and as the other vests started coming out, I'm going, they can't do that. He says, I ain't going to worry about it. In fact, that original vest that I had from him that I hunted with is sitting in Leland, Mississippi, in the Mississippi Heritage Museum and Outdoor Hall of Fame.
I think we sent one in Granddad. I think he's got one in his booth that we sent. One of his.
Okay.
There may be two over there.
There you go. But that is the original flop down vest. People do not realize the talent, and I'm not talking about me. Anyway, that has come out of the state of Mississippi. Everything from bass fishermen to duck collars to fish baits to turkey collars to primos to mossy oak to long leg. And you just go on and on and on and on and on. I am going to give a little plug here. Any outdoorsman, I know it's up there in the Delta, there's not a whole lot to do, but every outdoorsman owes themselves a trip to go to Leland, Mississippi to the Heritage Museum. It's not real big. It ain't going to take you an hour to go through it unless you really stop and read the things that are up there and just see all the stuff that came from our home state right here in Mississippi.
It's really cool.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. It's really cool. A couple of times I've ended up in that area and stopped by and walked through it. And I mean, yeah, you can spend however much time you want if you stop and read everything because there is that much information.
That's our history.
Yeah.
That's the history of hunting and fishing. And I have to say it. I'm going to give Mississippi that we're the birth of it, right here. Mm-hmm. Now, Louisiana's done a lot. Alabama's done a lot. I understand and I agree. I don't argue that. There's a tremendous amount of stuff that has come from the state of Mississippi in the outdoor world.
And you're right. And you'll realize it once you go in there and see some of the names that are around and read them. Right. And even if you don't recognize some of the names when you read some of the stories, you'll be like, "Oh, I heard about this." Yep. Like it's an interesting. It's a good trip.
Yeah, I got to get up there. I've never seen that. I want to go up there and see that.
Well, Preston was inducted in 2014 into the Mississippi Hall of Fame. Is that right? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yep.
I've been fortunate enough that I'm in the National Outdoor Hall of Fame, State Hall of Fame, NWTF Hall of Fame, and the Kansas One-Shot Governor's Hunt Hall of Fame. It's very humbling, I can tell you. I mean, I'm a redneck. Never planned, never claimed to be anything else but a redneck. That's all I am. I just enjoy life and have fun.
Especially from starting out in Carthage listening to a turkey calling contest.
That's right.
So where did that take you next? I guess we kind of talked about through that part, but like you did the state calling and all.
Well, that was back during the heyday of contest.
Yeah. That was somewhat of a question I had.
It was getting going then. Well, we had a big contest right here in Meridian. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Oh, I can't. Gene was over a lot of it. But by the time I was 19, 20-ish, you want to go to turkey calling contest, you could go every weekend somewhere in Mississippi, Louisiana, or Alabama. So competition calling, because you got to remember, turkey hunting's now starting to, there's turkeys out there to hunt. It ain't just squirrel, and deer. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have TV. We didn't have the internet. The only way you could learn is like me learning from Mr. Jack was to go to a contest or either an actual seminar to try to pick somebody's brain to get some information on how to do it. So turkey calling from a competitive side exploded. And I went all over Alabama, all over Louisiana, all over Mississippi. And then there were two big boy contests back then. That was the national championship. Like I said, this is prior to the National Wild Turkey Federation. There was a national championship in Yellville, Arkansas, and then there was the Real World Turkey Calling Championship in Mobile, Alabama. Both of those contests, uh, they're still in existence right now today, but both of those contests actually went away for a year or two until somebody else picked them back up. Uh, the biggest contest that I'm aware of right now, as far as where the big boys go to, is the Grand National Calling Championship. Although I don't have that info on me, there is now a big contest that over the past 4 or 5 years that is really, really growing. And they went to Chris Kirby, our Quakerboy game
Right.
calls to his son, to Dick Kirby's son, Chris, and got permission to use the U.S. Open title. So this year in Louisiana, they're having a giant contest, $25,000 guaranteed in prize money. Now that's spread out over all the different divisions.
Right.
They're even in the polls giving away a $500 first place,
Really.
which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then now there's all these divisions you don't hear about, the World Natural Voice, because when they came and talked to me at the NWTF National Convention, I said, let me tell you what you need to bring back. You might not have but 6 to 10 people competing in it,
But to get it back
the
going.
Natural Voice World, or call it what you want to, have a contest now for natural voice, because there are a bunch, especially of youngsters that are coming up that can do stuff with their natural voice that I'd like to see them, on stage. And you
Right.
can't compete. I say you can't. There's been a few people who've been able to compete against a diaphragm. There's nobody alive that I'm aware of right now that can hold a candle to somebody who really knows how to run a diaphragm.
Right.
So that's a whole total different category. But you've got,
They've come so far.
Oh Lord, yes, yes. Now there's friction calling contests. Of course, there's all the different divisions: the posts, the intermediate, the juniors, the amateurs, 2-man teams, scenarios, which I love,
Yeah.
very much so. And so there's a tremendous amount of different types of calling contests, but they're in only a few places.
So why did that happen? Why did it fall off so bad?
Because of what we're doing right here, right now, at this moment. It's called technology.
Because people didn't have to go learn that way anymore.
No, they can listen to a podcast. They can go to YouTube. In other words, the internet, technology has brought TV, everything else has brought, quote, the knowledge to the mass.
Right.
To where you don't have to. Although I will still say a one-on-one or a personal, and I do maybe one a year now. I charge for it. But a personal appearance, there ain't nothing like that. I like talking to somebody that can relate back to a turkey, a bird, the situation that this hunter is talking about. There's a wealth of information out there, but at the same time, there's a wealth of entertainment. And there's a big difference between entertainment and information. Day in and day out, there's only one way to learn how to become a woodsman. I didn't say anything about caller.
Right.
I said a woodsman that knows how to apply those calls until he or she gets out there and gets made a fool out of. Mm-hmm. You learn. You learn or you quit. One of the two.
Yeah, they will whoop you. I've told the story. I'm not going to tell the story again because I told it on here last year. But I had the the day I killed my first turkey, I killed it like 10:45 in the morning. But that morning, after I had tried to fool with them at daylight, I
Right.
told myself, I'm done. I'm not a turkey hunter. I just quit. And then talked myself back into going out there and kill one up in the morning. But just, Kylie, you get whooped so many times where you finally, it just seems like something clicks and you just kind of
But you
figure it
learn.
out.
You like,
Yep.
look, sometimes that's the best hunting there is. The biggest birds, the oldest birds I've ever killed, except for one or two, is between 10 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as the season goes on and those hens start dropping off. And then what I call the weekend warriors, they're out of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then guess who's still there? Or I go get me some breakfast. I run up to the
Right
Waffle
back.
House,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
get my pecan waffle and sausage,
Yep.
and another cup of coffee, and then go back to the woods again. The main thing, I guess, I've mentioned it before, is learn how to see with your ears. Windy days are my worst day. I hate windy days. If people can concentrate on hearing all the sounds that are going on out there, the blue jays, the thrush, the crows, the cat squirrels, and if they have a good knowledge of their land and their territory, you can answer your own questions. Real quick example: I'm in a creek bottom, and I keep hearing blue jays raise cane, and a little cat squirrel just doesn't keep it up. Not on a predator, in other words. And you remember, crap, there's a little 4-foot wide creek over there. Say anything about him gobbling. Maybe he had gobbled an hour before.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the other side of that creek. Boom. You know what to do. Either sit there, hold your ground, or get up, reposition, get across the creek, get on the same side with him, and then start trying to work him again. All this, you hear a crow, it's a non-gobbling day. You hear crows start going off and raising cane. And you remember there's an old deer food plot, up there on top of that hill. I ain't heard a thing as far as a turkey call. But it might not be a turkey, but there's a good chance that's what those crows are messing with. So hearing all these things and relating everything and understanding Mother Nature, one rabbit comes, birds gobbling out in front of me. And all of a sudden he stops and here comes one rabbit running. I know what to do. I'm going to make you guess it. If I see 2 rabbits, one chasing the other, I know to hold my ground. One rabbit by himself, if he's running and he ain't got a boy rabbit after her, what it breaks down to, then there's a good chance the reason why that bird quit gobbling is because there's some kind of predator, coyote, cat, whatever, it may be. That's time to shut up. Let it die down. Back out a little bit. Make a circle. Come in 75 yards from a different direction to him. Just like it was a hen that got a little bit spooked, but she remembers that he's there too. Now an hour's gone by is what it breaks down to. Understanding all that stuff, now at 70, I wish you could put me back in a 30-year-old body. You wouldn't want me on that.
I can imagine.
Yeah. By the time you think, and in saying that though, I guarantee I'm going to learn some stuff this year. No doubt in my mind. Do not close your mind off. Always leave your mind open that you can learn something else. And it only continue making you a better and a better. And that's true with anything. I don't care whether it's fishing, squirrel hunting, or turkey hunting, or duck hunting. I noticed ducks. Whenever I walked in, you can always learn a new trick, a new tactic, whether it's to do or not to do. You can always learn.
Yep.
A lot of times that not to do is more important than that to do.
As Tom Kelly says, the most important thing in life is knowing when not to call. And there's a lot of truth in that. Less is more.
Yep. You can't put that call back in your mouth. Once it's out, it's out.
That's it.
So kind of going like Where do you see all the with the hunting, the competitive calling, all that, mixing it with all this, the way technology's moving and stuff? Where do you see us going in the future of turkey hunting and turkey calling and all that?
As far as the turkey calling, I think we have seen the heyday of turkey calling.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that all of us as sportsmen, as conservationists, which we all need to be of, there are problems. Even though the past 2 years we've had some pretty darn good hatches, I'm seeing more longbeards than I've seen in 10 years. Nationwide, there's problems. Maybe some of the me's help that to a degree as far as educating people, but it goes way above and beyond that. There's so many things that need to be changed. Uh, Burning at the wrong time of the year, people not wanting to catch predators. Nobody traps anymore, because the fur prices aren't any good. Um,
It's like a death by a thousand cuts, really.
Yes.
And there's so many different little
Yes.
things that are all adding up
Look,
with a surge in popularity at the same time.
correct. And then there's something else. Now, there is, and I am a big backer of the National Wild Turkey Federation, but there's another organization called TFT.
Right.
And basically, that's what they are all about is research. Well, a lot of rednecks don't understand. They'll start cussing the game wardens and the commissioners and everybody else. Is that a lot of these laws to be changed have to go through our legislators. And there is one thing that a legislator does understand, and that's scientific fact.
Mm-hmm.
And NWTF is getting back and doing a lot of that also. But by doing studies, it's going to take 3 to 7 years. Is finding out, okay, what's really going on? What can we do to help our habitat? That's always going to be a big factor. And whether that means trapping, whether that means planting different types of plants, whether that means limiting yourself, that if you don't have a lot of turkeys on your 600 acres or your 6,000 acre club, then hey, we hadn't been having good hatches. Let's knock it down to just one bird.
Mm-hmm.
So by receiving a lot of data through these nonprofit organizations, it's going to help us a lot. Look, we know what a lot of it is, but there's another factor there. And I can pick on some states. Tennessee is probably still my favorite state to hunt. I watched over a 2 to 3 year period to where me and Johnny would go for a ride about the day before season because I have the Tennessee governor's hunt on opening day of season. And it was nothing to see 30 to 50 strutters. Not that we can hunt them all, but I mean, just what we call on a ride about.
Mm-hmm.
You see 3 to 5 on that same ride about now, you've had a good day. Now, you can't tell me that it's all habitat. This is a personal opinion. Okay? I am no biologist. So, Adam, don't get mad at me. There are places, I say there is some, we know about blackhead, but there is some type of something else. Now, look at the American bald eagle. What was the problem with the bald eagles? It was because of what, the DDT?
DDT. Spraying mosquitoes.
That was getting into the water system, that was getting into the fish, that made the eggshells, not harden up, and they weren't successful. Mm-hmm. Could it be something like that? Maybe. Could it be some type of new disease like blackhead? Maybe. And don't get upset with me. Tell you what I am a promoter of. I don't care if you got 40 acres of land. I don't care if you got 400,000 acres of land. There is one thing that can help you. It's going to solve the problem? No. Trapping. And I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody. Heck, I went coon hunting about 3 weeks ago with some boys from Alabama. I had a ball.
Mm-hmm.
But you just don't. You notice I said from Alabama, came from Alabama to Mississippi so that they could find a good place to go coon hunting. You don't see the coon hunters anymore. And I'm saying this is on your private land. I'm not talking about hurting anybody that has to hunt public land or change anything whatsoever. Because that's how I grew up hunting, was in what we call Camp Shelby, the Southern National Forest. But these, we call them dog-proof traps. In fact, they got them right up there in West Point, Dukes, pecans. You can make a difference. You can make a difference. You go to burn your land, don't do it during nesting time. Wait. Don't bush hog when the hens are sitting on a nest. So there's you 3 things right there that every landowner,
everybody's favorite time to get out and get the bush hogs cranked up.
Well, because they want it looking good and manicured and it's starting to grow
and everything else. And it's like, please don't do that.
Yeah, that's 3 things that every 10 acres even. I got 48.29 acres of land. And believe it or not, I help bring turkeys back. Now, we got some more land that joins to it, but I help bring birds back to that territory by doing the simple things, burning at the right time.
You're right.
Trapping. And all of a sudden we got a stable population back again. There's more to it. If you know what I mean.
We've talked about it on here before. The trapping, they say, if you're not consistent and steady and have pretty much a year-round program, you're not really the coons are just going to come right back in. Well,
I'll catch them too then.
I caught 10 last week. I caught 10 last week. They're not going to eat an egg. I can promise you. So
there you
it's
go.
Just, it's just a constant process, but just because you might not can do as much as you would hope doesn't mean don't do anything.
Do what you can do. Do what you can
Anything's better than nothing.
Right. Because you're right. I mean, the numbers, like I remember being a kid, you'd pull up a pasture and there'd be 25, 30 turkeys in a winter flock all together around here. And then even guys out west, talking to them in the hundreds, like you don't see that hardly.
Nah.
Or the people I talk to, you don't see it.
Well, and we don't, I wanted to ask this because I asked basically everybody that I can that was a true turkey hunter from the no turkeys to all the turkeys to where we are now. Do you think some of it is just kind of getting to a natural carrying capacity versus the 90s? Because I know the 90s, I feel like.
Well, I didn't hesitate on that, did I?
No, you didn't at all.
No. Let me tell you about a wild turkey. And we all need to work with habitat. I'm not going to argue that. But I saw what happened in South Mississippi when the paper companies were coming in and clear cutting the pine trees and then poisoning, the oak trees, poisoning them. And a turkey has the greatest ability to adapt to whatever type of terrain is out there. And Adam Butler is cussing me right now, but that's okay. They're going to find a way. What was that? Jurassic Park? Yeah, they're going to find a way. There's more to it than just that. I've seen too many birds survive in a pine tree forest and you're going, what in the heck are these birds eating? Are they eating pine needles? You know what I'm saying? They will find a way. And yes, you can help a bunch through proper habitat, planting, and so on and so forth. So no, I do not think that we have reached our carrying capacity. Do I think that we can have more with what we have right now today? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Now, here again, that's a personal opinion, but I go back, 55, 55, 60, 50 and 55 years ago. I mean, I can remember going down into Camp Shelby when I really started getting into turkey hunting, and I was about 16 years old. I had my driver's license. And if you found a track, you juiced it out. Then you took, because there was about 4 more old-time turkey hunters down there, and then you even disguised where you juiced it out with the pine limb because they knew what you were doing. to the point in time to where you could ride down there on those old tank trails, hang your head out the window with God. I can't stand that now, but you could hang your head out the window and go, these 300 yards, I ain't walking that far. I'm going down the road and find another one. You know what I mean? He's about 100 yards off. I'll park here and go hunt him. So I've seen it all from nothing to all of a sudden, my gosh, where did all these turkeys, come from? To last time I hunted Shelby, there was 18 people, and me and my buddy on one gobbling turkey.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, the pressure has hurt from the standpoint of our quote heydays, but yes, we can, because now we have a lot more organized hunting clubs that you can dictate what your habitat is going to be, what you're going to plant, how many birds you're going to harvest, so on, so on, so forth. I really feel my heart does go out to people that have to hunt strictly public land in the state of Mississippi. It's not easy. I've done it. Although we are pretty darn fortunate, not just with the what they call them, the management areas, but with the national forests,
Right.
that we have. In fact, if my buddy Dan DeWitt's listening right now, I know I'll get a phone call here in a little bit. I admire our department for putting a limit during the first 2 weeks of season on how many people that can come in to. We got in this argument yesterday. The reason why I said that. I believe it's 1,000, people during the first 2 weeks, of season, and I think they can only kill one bird. I'm not sure on
I
that.
think that's right.
Because we are, now that everybody else is starting to change their seasons, there's Florida and then there's Mississippi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Well,
really
it's like a wave, because
Yeah.
you've seen this past week the wave head to South Florida, and then here next week
That's
that
right.
wave's coming up here, or at least it was before they put the quotas on that.
And what you're going with, our neighbors are backing up, so it's even putting more emphasis on
us.
Yep.
Us. And I have to admire the states. At least they're trying to do something, because they realize that we do have a problem. Whatever it is, I applaud TFT for stepping up and really putting their emphasis on what's causing it, what can we do, so on and so forth. A lot of states, Alabama, I believe, pushed their season back and cut their limit. I think.
I don't know about the limit, but I know they pushed it.
Oh yeah, they went from 5 to 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they went from 5 to 3.
You can't hunt public now until I think it's the week after the private land season opens, and then in the first 10 days you can only kill one in a certain WMA. You can't go and kill two.
Okay. But they're trying.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying. Have they got the answer? Who knows?
Well, talking about like just the way it quote was. I mean, this will be my 25th year since I killed my first turkey. There's not a lot of things I can say that I've done for 25 years, but turkey hunting's one of them I can say I've done for 25 years.
You got the blood in you though, buddy.
But man, like just even the way we hunt, like used to, it was like you pulled up on a hilltop and you stood there and you were like, all right, well, let's listen and see what's gobbling where. And it was like, that was it. Or you might drive up to that same hilltop the night before and listen to see what flew up.
Right.
You would stand there and they'd start gobbling. You'd say, well, let's wait. There's maybe one here, one there, one over here. Now they've all got about name tags on them now. There's so few. It's like, hey, y'all go hunt this one. We're going to go hunt this one. And that's all we're going to be able to kill this year. We'll let the rest of them go because we ain't got enough to shoot anymore.
I applaud you for that, though.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it has changed dramatically. And I mean, I think some of the timber stuff has changed too. You're talking about the way it was in South Mississippi. I mean, I watched a track we hunt on this past year, a couple 100 acres that was sprayed and should have, back in the day, you'd have them come through, they thin some trees, give it a year, there'd be turkeys all in it.
Right.
Now, they got thinned about 2 or 3 years ago. They came in and sprayed everything between it. when spring green up happened, that looked like it was middle of December. There wasn't a first green leaf on anything out there, and there wasn't a turkey on that 400 acres.
Right.
There's something going on.
There's something going on. I don't know what it is. Like I'm saying, hopefully, like I said, the nonprofits can get the scientific data fact and figure this thing out before we lose them all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the bobwhite quail.
Yeah. Well, we've been close to that already once.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think luckily, I think the awareness is getting there early enough now before it gets to that extreme.
Well, everybody's telling the same stories.
Mm-hmm.
What Austin just said, the ones that are old enough, and you're not that old, but the ones that are old enough to remember even 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, how good it was, then, and it's a steady decline. I will say this though, the past 2 years, I'm based out of the West Point area now. The past 2 years, we had hatches that, I'll be real frank with you, I didn't realize that they were as good as they are, because I'm seeing adult birds. Wait a second. There might be some club members. There's 1 to 3 there.
Yeah. One
Bunch.
bunch.
I think that big ice storm we had 2 years ago helped on some of that hatch numbers. That's my philosophy on it, because nothing else has really changed where we are, other than we got a lot more timber litter on the ground.
Right.
And I think that helped give some more nesting and brood habitat.
Very possible. Very possible.
Well, and we've said it, 5 or 10 times, but it's just, there's so many little things. It's like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be a little bit of all of it. The timber market is terrible right now. So, is that which way is that going to take it? You're going to have less people planting pine plantations. So maybe you'll go back to some natural habitat. Who knows? Just got to, like we said, just do what you can.
That's
try
right.
to help.
That's all you can do, is encourage everybody out there to just do a little self-test on their own self, which is, what can I do? I don't care how little it may be, and then follow through. And if it's nothing more than, instead of killing 2 birds off my property, I'm just going to kill 1, so be it. If it means I can trap a little bit, so be it. If it means I wait till I bush hog till a little bit later or a little bit earlier, whichever way it may go, so be it. Just whatever each individual can do.
So something you mentioned, I guess, kind of partly earlier, because you mentioned longleaf a minute ago, but on the Pitman game call side, when did you start Pitman game call? When did you start? When did you officially start? You kind of had your calling career that's still going on type deal through your transition process. When did you start, like, commercially making game calls?
I can remember peddling calls at 16 to Sears and Roebuck in Hattiesburg. I had a manila envelope with some of my titles on it. Was it really a business then? No.
But that was when you started kind of getting your feet wet on talking to people, and I'm trying to sell something.
I guess I was, you have to do the math on it, about 18 years old. And what I was doing then was I would ride to a bait shop even and try to peddle a handful of diaphragms. By the time I hit in my 20s, early 20s, that's when I started, like, some of the bigger sporting goods stores like Big Buck Trading Post, which is now gone.
That was in Hattiesburg, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was in Hattiesburg. That's correct. Started picking up my stuff. And then a gentleman by the name of Banks Norman approached me, which I had gone to school with, and we kicked the company off then. And like the old original Boss Busters were all glued together. There's some prior to that call that I'm looking at now. We started doing like a little box call. And that's the Max Klein pots that I already mentioned, and the Mrs. Stratton pimento and cheese that I found out they were being shot in Florida, and I added the color black to it. which made the plastic denser and made it sound better. So that would have been, I was around 22-ish when it really became I still cut hair for a living then. But
I was going to that. I jotted down earlier. You said your mom was a stylist. I didn't know if you'd slap me for asking
No.
if that got you started on that or not, but
No.
or even how many people knew that about you. But I knew.
Well,
I knew you did hair for or did hair there for a while. And
Dick Kirby was a hairstylist.
that's it's a big list.
Eddie Salters, Harold Knight, me, Brenda Valentine. That's 5 I can name off the top of. Yep, that was, and people think I was a barber. I was not a barber. I was a licensed cosmetologist, is what I was. I was, never would have thought I'd gotten into that. And actually, my dad is the one who talked me into it because that's when Vietnam was still going on. My draft number was 4, not 4D, 4. But Nam was starting to end. And my dad goes, and I had dyslexia, so I was the dummy of the family. It took me 13 years to get through high school. And Dad said, I don't want you to go to war. And I said, well, Dad, I love my country. He says, I don't doubt that at all. But he said, I don't want you to go see the things I've seen and do the things I have had to do in my lifetime of World War II. And he said, this thing is ending. He said, get your butt in some kind of a trade school. And I went to barber school first. That lasted about 5 days. And then I went to actual cosmetology school. And no, it wasn't one of them kind of. I don't care if I hurt somebody's feeling. It's just the way it is and the way I feel about it. That is not the opinion of this the podcast here. That's mine personally. And I found out, it was a pretty darn good business whenever you're a guy and in the beginning, 90% of your customers are females and you're single.
Yeah.
Read in between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
I had a date if I wanted a date. And then my shop turned into, I specialized in haircut, what they call precision haircutting back then. And it became a family shop. Kids' first haircut. Mom and daddy come in. Mom would be getting a perm and I'd be cutting daddy's hair. You know what I'm trying to say? And I loved it. In fact, I had a half a dozen. If y'all still alive, thank you. I love y'all still. I can't remember your names, but I had about a half a dozen marathon runners that would run out on 4th Street Extension, and then on the weekends would run all over Lamar County. They never paid me for a haircut, but they brought me back a chart of how many birds they saw, where at, what day, what time, and half the time had me a name and a phone number to call.
That's probably the connection of all them folks. They've been standing around talking and finding out who had what in their hayfields and what mail carrier was seeing what.
Yes. A rural mail carrier, USP, FedEx, whatever it may be, can be your best source of information as long as they don't hunt. Because if they hunt, they'll lie.
Right.
All turkey hunters lie, so don't tell me you don't, because I know most of y'all do because you turkey hunt. You can go to a barbershop in a strange town. And, the old-timey barbershops next, go ahead and just sit there and listen. Now, all you can hope for is that the barber is not a turkey hunter. And then when you let everybody else go, you're hearing all the conversations and you're finding out names of somebody's least door you can go knock on. That still used to be one of my old scouting tips. And I still believe it would work today.
I like those old barbershops because it always laugh at them. The place I used to get my hair cut, you go in there, they'd just start a conversation that morning. They'd have the same conversation all day. It's just whoever walked in next would add something new to it, and the next one has something new.
And any information you wanted,
you were
going to get it there at the barbershop.
Yeah, like the subjects would all change on their own just over time, but like it was one conversation that somebody started, whatever the topic was going to be, and that just ran for the course of the day.
Yep.
So I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're going to have to get out of here pretty soon. But I want to know, and Austin, if you got any final questions or thoughts or anything. But I want to know, come Come opening day, you're about to go to the turkey woods. What are you putting in your vest? What calls are you counting on? Okay.
The yellow one, y'all can't see this. The yellow one is
Actually,
They can see it.
Right
oh, they
there.
can. Okay,
Yeah, right there.
yellow one's called Vengeance. The white one's called Frequencer. The yellow one is a Batwing 3-reed 3000th rubber. The white one is called the Frequencer. It's a 2.5 reed 3000th rubber with a ghost cut on it. Those are my two go-to calls. That is not my best-selling call. Black Diamond is my best-selling call, but that's what I use. I'm going to have that. I've got a relatively new call. It's a plastic pot called Glass Kicker. It's a glass call. That will be with me. And probably a box call by the name of Sweet and Nasty. That is my go-to calls. Now, in the beginning, especially since I will be hunting with a bunch of younger hunters, it'll probably be those two calls and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Your hands are going to be occupied.
My hands are going to be occupied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's kind of my ritual. The few times that I get to go hunting for me, or I've got some adults that will listen to what I'm saying, then those are the calls that's going to be in my vest anytime that I go.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I don't even wear a vest anymore. Pack Rabbit makes a little pouch that sits right here. And you can't get a whole bunch of calls in it, but you can get enough, calls in it. And with having back surgery, I've got to where I'm sitting in one of those little chairs now. The real problem is, and I'm looking at you, I see you, I can recognize you. I cannot recognize you now. Is this right eye still is not right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, people saw me. I had a patch on that eye. So there's going to be a few birds that's going to get an extra chance because I can't see over here. I mean, I can see movement, but I can't recognize stuff anymore. And I cannot shoot with my left eye. I know I killed one last year shooting left-handed. I ain't doing that no more. But I shoot a scope so I can focus.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean, the scope.
So when you pull those calls out of your pocket, it made me think about it. How many days a year could somebody find calls in your pocket if they?
Believe it or not, no.
Okay.
From now till mid-May, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then you know what's going to happen to those calls? They're going to be these are brand new, fresh out of the package. Because this will be the fourth year of what I call my favorite calls, and they're going to die at some point in time this year. They go into a freezer.
Okay.
Now, friction stuff, I'm working with 12 months a year, and I'm doing some hand turning stuff, going back and doing some the old way on a little old jet and a Harbor Freight, to where I'm sitting there with those hand tools, making pot calls out of some of this exotic stuff. Zebra, leopard, stuff like that. So I'll have some kind of call in my hand, but I'm not competing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I am, but I'm competing with the bird is what I'm competing with. So I don't do what most people think. I don't live with a turkey call in my mouth anymore. I did that for 40 years?
Mm-hmm.
That you'd ask me that in my active competitive days, I had a turkey call in my mouth every single solitary day of my life. Period. Shower's a good place to practice. Riding back and forth to work, good place to practice because you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as long as I call good enough to kill a turkey, that's all I care about.
That's right. That's right. Austin, do you have anything else?
Man, I could go on forever, but I think we've got a good running of questions there. We've kind of already went through. I think we've touched on a bunch of stuff.
Yep, me too. Let me ask this before we get out of here. Can you still gobble like you once could?
Sometimes.
Okay. Is now one of those times?
We'll find out. Nope. It's not. It's weak.
It's still.
The voice, doctors told me, you've done it so much, so long, But you've stretched your larynx. It's like laying a rubber band up on the dashboard of the truck. It has no elasticity to it.
Yeah.
You inhale yelp, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Inhale gobble and inhale yelp.
I thought you did. I thought you inhaled on both.
I was up riding around the truck this morning thinking about today, and I've heard you somewhere say that before, and I'm choking myself up so bad, coughing, trying to.
Oh, me. There's
It's coming from the right place in.
Well,
Yeah,
I hadn't figured it out yet, but I'm gonna keep on trying.
Yeah, the Dudley side was exhale. I can't do that.
I originally exhaled, and then after I lost my voice, I already knew this, and how it felt and what I was doing, and I just re-taught myself by inhaling.
Mm-hmm.
See, it ain't there no more. It's gone.
It's compared to
if I hadn't,
compared to
if you'd have asked me that when we started this, I probably could have gobbled a little bit better.
Yeah, well,
but
compared to 99% of the other ones you'll hear,
I should have just outhered to begin with and just see if we got a shot gobble out of him.
Well, but you see, there's always
those make it a little easier, don't they?
The ace in the hole.
Another thing I just know, you don't trim your calls on the outside, do you? That's full size.
Yeah.
Man, I'd throw up trying
Me
to fit
too.
that
My
in
mouth's
mouth.
too small.
I can't do it. I've tried.
I've always got a diaphragm. Okay. I know you're trying to get out of here.
No, I'm not. I don't want you to run late.
Put your head back, open up your mouth, let me look inside. Okay? I want you to do the same thing. You especially. Number one reason why a person cannot use a full-size diaphragm is because they have narrow teeth or a very high palate, especially you. You say you're cutting the calls down. If you ever bend one, which I know there are tons of people that do, you have changed, doesn't matter whose it is, what that person has designed to stretch for. Try this sometimes. And I don't even like to call them what most people call them youth calls. I just call them small frame calls. If you can't blow a full-size frame and you're spitting and you're gagging and you're trying to swallow it and your wife's going to slap you in the face because you spit in her face when you're trying to learn how to do it, try a small frame call. That way you'll get in between your teeth and seal. Will you get exactly the same sounds? Pretty much, but you won't get the volume that you can get with a full-size frame call.
Well, and a lot of people, it's probably the same thing as the kids, but you'll see a lot of these call makers now are making the small frame calls.
It's kids call. That's what we originally called it, and I'm probably one of the ones that finally said, "Hey, look,
bigger market if we don't market it just to kids."
Well, but a lot of guys go, "I'm gonna blow no kids call." So I started calling them small frame calls because that's the number one reason why a grown person, male or female, cannot use a diaphragm is it's just too big. The frame's too big for them.
Yeah. Well, let me say this to the people still listening. I've been thinking about it since you brought up the situations or whatever on the during the contest. One of my favorite things of all time on YouTube is I don't know what year it was or where it was, but your routine up there when you start on the roost and kind of work through that. If anybody wants to go watch that on YouTube,
I'm pretty sure that if you Google Preston Pittman turkey call,
that's what's going to come up.
That's the first thing that's going to come up.
What's going to come
up. Is that the one where I hit the diaper on?
Yeah, the diaper.
Okay, yeah.
It's something else, but yeah, you can find it. Just type.
That was the Play Pretty contest. That was called the Spit, Drum, and Gobble contest at the National Wild Turkey Federation National Convention. They don't even have it anymore, but it was a legitimate excuse that a grown man can act like an idiot and have fun, and I did.
Yeah, it was something to watch. I still go back and watch it every now and then. But let me just say that I surely do appreciate you coming on. We've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm glad you came down.
You didn't ask him. Is there anything else you got to say or want to add or plug any of your stuff? Or
well, you can always go to Preston Pittman Game Calls to the website and go for a trip through there. But as far, and we got some specials going on too. There is a pet peeve of mine. After living through 2 hunting accidents or being shot twice, I highly encourage everyone, regardless of your age to go through the hunter safety education course. Go to some of these other states. Go to Colorado. I don't care how young or how old you are. You better have a hunter education card on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good law. And be respectful to your fellow turkey hunters. If you pull up to your favorite spot, somebody's done beat you there, hey, leave them alone. Don't go in on top of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hunt safely. And then now with this, the new TSS, I'm an Apex user. I can tell you that right here in Mississippi. That stuff is bad to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to add, if Tungsten would have been around back then, we might have had a different story now.
I'm surprised that somebody hasn't been killed yet.
Yeah.
So y'all hunt safe. Y'all be respectful of other hunters. Respect your game. And even though you might see me or hear me say a wordy dirt every now and then, there's a God in heaven who has a plan, and your Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
I think
Be
that's
safe.
a good place to end that.
That is a good one to end on. Well, good luck this coming season, and again, thank you for coming on.